Another ugly performance for the Atlanta Braves post All-Star break. We'll discuss Tuesday night's game, Ozzie Albies' struggles, and those 2-out RBIs that Charlie Morton keeps giving up. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out my written work over at BravesToday.com, where I'm putting out a different article every day about potential trade partners for the Atlanta Braves. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new and watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Up over 6,300 subscribers on YouTube. Hit that like button as well on this video to help spread it to everybody else out there. Keep commenting in the comment section. Been doing a tremendous job there as well. I really appreciate the continued conversation on these episodes. And that's what this is all about. This is what I try to make this show about. I try to make it interactive with you. I bring up these topics and then we continue the discussion down in the comment section. You do a great job of that. I want to give a shout out to some of my everydayers who let me know on the last episode: Mossy, Adam Dodd, Noah Sills, William the Worst, KJ Kaido, Ecuadorman, Henry Brewer Calvert, Stinky Pete, and also a shout out to Colby Epps and Waylon Mercy, who said they're on vacation and they're still taking time to listen to Locked On Braves. Hopefully you're enjoying your vacation as well, but I appreciate you still tuning in. And thanks to everybody who makes Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Tuesday night's ugly loss against the Boston Red Sox. Just a weird game, got off to a really weird start, and then the Braves just played another, again, poor game post All-Star break like we've unfortunately been accustomed to seeing here lately. Charlie Morton's inconsistencies are creeping back out there. Offense going silent. Ozzie Albies' cold streak that he is on right now. Do the Braves need to shuffle the lineup again? We're going to talk about some 2-out hits that it feels like the Braves always give up, but if you look at the stats, that's not been the case. And then we'll discuss some news as well. You got Mentor, who made a rehab assignment or outing on Tuesday. A little bit of roster update. Then we'll get ready for Wednesday's game where hopefully Spencer Strider is going to get the Braves back on track. Well, let's start with that Tuesday game. Again, an ugly one here. And that's really been the theme of the second half so far is, bad defense, poor, timely hitting, walks galore from the pitching staff. And just really the thing that bothers me, if there are two weaknesses right now with this team that really worry me going down the stretch and into the postseason, it's defense, which has been up and down this year. It's really good at certain positions. Even on Tuesday night, Orlando RC made a great play. The Braves turned a triple play, but there were still just some defensive lapses in this game where, it really could have turned the game in a different direction. And it seems like that's been the case in the second half. And really at the beginning of the season, I thought in the middle, they were much better. But if there's one area that really concerns me at the Braves right now, it is the team defense. And then the other thing would be hitting with runners in scoring position, something they haven't been great at all year long. 26th in Major League Baseball hitters in scoring position, hitting with runners in scoring position with a 241 average. Now, I do say this all the time. The Braves are in scoring position with their lineup when they're standing at home plate, and that's true. And we know how much they depend on the home runs, which typically they get plenty of. I believe this was just the 13th game all year the Braves didn't hit a home run, and they're now 2-11 in those games. So Braves hit a lot of home runs typically. But when they don't, and you have nights like you did on Tuesday, and you go 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position as they did, it's tough for this team to score runs. We know that, but those would be my two concerns. And maybe I should have done a whole podcast segment on this, but if there are two weaknesses right now that could scare me the most for the Braves, it's team defense and hitting with runners in scoring position. But getting back to Tuesday's game, It had a 100-minute rain delay to start, and it was already a 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time, which I don't know. That seems a little late to me, but maybe not. Weird first inning. Braves had the bases loaded, already scored a run. Got a line drive to the second baseman. Was ruled a catch. Nobody really knew what was going on. It was like a 10-minute delay for the umpires to figure out what was going on. Ended up badly for the Braves. It looked like it may have been the wrong call. Looked like that ball may have touched the ground. Braves should have had another run. Should have at least had runners on the corners with 2 outs and maybe an opportunity for more there and a 2-0 lead. It's a big play in the game, especially the way things went the rest of the way with the Braves not scoring much. It may not have mattered because the Braves didn't pitch particularly well, but just a weird first inning. Then you had pitch comm delays like crazy. They have got to have a rule change for these pitch comm issues. If there's a pitch comm issue in the middle of the inning, you should be forced to, you get a timeout to try to figure it out. If you can't, there's no going and getting another one. There's no going to the dugout to figure out what's going on. There's no bringing out, several different pitch comms. I saw a game the other day where the pitch comm kept falling off Zach Gallen's glove. You don't keep bringing out more Velcro to get it to stick on your glove. No, you continue the inning, you go to signs and you figure it out between the innings. You cannot have these delays. It's terrible for, when we're trying to speed up the game with a pitch clock and all that, and you continue to have these pitch comm issues. It seems like every single game. That's got to stop. It's terrible in my opinion. We put down signs for hundreds of years. You should be able to go back and do that pretty easily. If something happens with the pitch comm during the inning, there's got to be some sort of rule change on that, or they got to figure out these pitch comms, how they can work more effectively and the Braves had it on their end too. You had Charlie Morton who, all of a sudden stopped the game because he said he couldn't hear it. Is that becoming a tactic for pitchers now to say, they need a break, say, oh, the pitch comm's not working, and they get a free timeout that way? In my mind, it's just got to stop. You got a pitch comm issue, you automatically go to signs, you figure out between the innings. There's my soapbox on that. But you had pitch comm delays. The Braves had a triple play in this game, as I mentioned. Just a weird game. Despite all that, the Braves played bad, and they did not, play good baseball to win this game. Despite all the weirdness that happened, despite, perhaps having a run taken away from them in the first inning, they just didn't play good baseball. And a lot of that comes from Charlie Morton, who looked like maybe there for a while. He had a 4-game stretch before the All-Star break where he looked really good. Thought maybe he was finding his stride, becoming more consistent. Now it's 2 starts in a row where he's not been good, and it's kind of going back to that inconsistencies that we've seen from Charlie Morton over the past 2 years now, where it's good start, bad start, couple of good starts, couple of bad starts. It's not very consistent right now with him. And on Tuesday, it's really the walks that are the killer. And I really go to that first inning. Again, you had you had the rain delay, then you had that long top half of the first inning. You had that 10-minute discussion from the umpires trying to figure out what happens. And then he gets in that at bat with Rafael Devers, who fouls off 20 pitches and then finally gets a ball low and away, and he somehow pulls it through the right side. I know the shift is gone, and I think that's hurting Ozzie Albies at second base a lot, but I just feel like he needs to be getting to some of these baseballs. One, maybe not that one in particular, certainly one later in the game I feel like he should have got to. But you had that long at bat. And then there's the decision to pitch around Adam Duvall. You had second and third, 2 outs, and you pitch around Adam Duvall to get to the lefty Tristan Casas, and then you walk him as well. That to me was just killer sequence. And I think they were clearly pitching around Adam Duvall. Again, my thoughts on Adam Duvall. There's been rumors about him coming back. I'm not the biggest Adam Duvall supporter in the world. I think he's been a bit overrated because he can get on some hot streaks. He's had some big moments with the Braves. I do not understand the decision there to pitch around Adam Duvall. You had a right-on-right situation, a lefty on deck. And I mean, those just weren't even close to Adam Duvall. That had to be an obvious pitch around. And then you set yourself up with the bases loaded where you walk another batter, you get in a free run. It's exactly what happened. And then that inning just kind of fell apart on him. So that was a weird decision, but 5 walks in the game for Charlie Morton. Again, he struggles with, he wants to get chases. That's where, Charlie Morton really excels, getting those chases off the plate. But in a good team, a good offense like the Red Sox, they're not going to chase those pitches. You got to be able to get outs in the zone. You got to be able to get the weak contact. You got to be able to attack them or at least get ahead and then make them swing at your pitches. Just wasn't able to do that on this night. 5 walks. That's absolutely killer. I mentioned the defense didn't help behind them. There's a play later in the game, and I don't think this was Charlie pitching at this point, but a play that I thought Ozzie could have made, would have saved a run from scoring. Eddie Rosario letting another ball drop right in front of him. I'm at the point, and I said this last week, just let Kevin Pillar start in left field. I know it's another righty, and you want to get lefties in there for the matchup, but the defense is just so bad right now in left field. Just let Kevin Pillar play out there. We've talked about the discussion and idea of trading for Cody Bellinger. And while I worry about the regression from Cody Bellinger because of his advanced metrics, even with the regression, is he just as good offensively as Eddie Rosario? And we know he's better defensively. I'm starting to lean that way because I just cannot take these balls dropping in front of Eddie in left field anymore. It's really, really bad. So Charlie didn't pitch great. That's point number one. Point number two, this defense just continues to, I don't know. I don't want to say it's a lack of effort. I don't think that's it. Maybe a lack of focus, but just not able to get to some of these balls that I feel like they should be able to get to. This Red Sox offense is really good. I want to make sure, that's clear as well. They're one of the best offenses in baseball. Some weak hits in there as well. They had 7 hits that were under 90 miles per hour, average 90 mile X velocities or lower. 4 of them were 80 miles per hour or lower. So some unfortunate weak hits for the Red Sox in this game as well. But you can't have the weak hits and the walks and the bad defense. That's a bad combination. And that's what the Braves had on Tuesday. And unfortunately, it's what they've had a lot of the second half of the season. And it doesn't help that your offense goes absolutely silent for 8 innings. And I say silent, they had plenty of chances, 9 hits, 3 walks on the night, but just 1 run with this offense, with this lineup. We talked about the runners in scoring position issue. We talked about the first inning debacle where they probably should have at least had 1 more run. But, I mean, they had opportunities in this game. You had back-to-back singles to start the second inning. Even after, only getting the 1 run in the first inning, and then the Red Sox coming back and scoring 2 in the bottom half, you had 2 singles to start the top of the second, and you can't score. Ozzie left 2 on with 2 outs in that inning. You had a leadoff single in the 4th. Then you had a double play. Unfortunate, Eddie Rosario hit the ball pretty hard up the middle, but right to the second baseman who had a double play. And then you had a walk after that. So it's like there could have been a potential big inning there. And that's another thing. And again, this is somewhat of an excuse. I feel like in these games post All-Star break, almost nothing is going the Braves' way, and everything is going the other way for the team they're facing. Again, that's just, that's going to happen. You got to play through that and that adversity, but it just seems like that every ball is just fair for the other team and every ball is just foul for the Braves. It seems like that's happened a lot here in the last week or two. You had a 2-out single and a walk in the 7th. Again, Ozzie leaves 2 on with 2 outs. And then the 9th inning, Ozzie left 2 on with 2 outs. And that leads to kind of my last point here from this game. Ozzie struggles here lately. Had the big home run in Milwaukee to help them win that game. That was great, but that's his only hit in the past 6 games. He's walked 3 times and scored 5 runs during that span, which is great. He's hitting just .227 in the month of July, but he has a .342 on base percentage and a .515 slugging percentage. But really, you look over the past 2 weeks now, really not even that long, but you look, really pretty much since the All-Star break, Ozzie's starting to cool off a little bit. He is somebody who is a very streaky hitter. I've said it on here many times. You got to be cautious of when he's going to go into that hard, cold streak, because when he's really hot, he can be really hot. We've seen that. But when he's really cold, it's really cold, like we've kind of seen here over the past week or so. So I think you have to be cautious of that and know whether it's time to move him out of that 2 hole. Again, as we've talked about a lot on here, I don't know who the ideal fit is for that 2 hole. Don't really want to mess with Matt Olson as he's been so good in that 4 spot in the lineup, but I don't really know who else to put in that 2 hole at this point. But got to be a little weary here with Ozzie and his struggles that he's had, and some of his at-bats have just been so bad here lately. But more so, the Braves' performance after the second half is just, it's not great. Again, I don't know if it's a lack of focus because they're not really being pushed in the NL East. Still have a double-digit lead in the division. Whatever it may be, hopefully they're getting it out of their system now. It feels like the month of May. If you go back to May, they had a long stretch against some really good teams, which they're kind of in now, facing the Diamondbacks, Brewers, now the Red Sox, all good teams. And it just felt like every day was a grind, was a battle, and it just felt like they weren't playing their best baseball consistently. That's what it feels like now. And they came out of that, and they went on a month-and-a-half stretch where they played some of their best baseball, especially offensively. So hopefully the Braves are getting this out of their system now, and down the stretch of August, September, they're back to playing their best baseball going into the postseason. We know what this team can do and what it looks like when they're playing their best. And we know what it can look like when they're fully healthy on the pitching side, which hopefully is going to happen here in the next couple of weeks with getting Fried and Minter back, especially, and maybe another pickup at the deadline. So we know what this team is capable of, just not playing that way right now. And it's a bit frustrating from a fan's perspective. Another thing that's frustrating, 2-out hits. And Red Sox had 6 of those on Tuesday night. And it feels like the Braves have given up a ton. But when I did some digging, saw that actually wasn't the case. We'll discuss that next. Are you using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy baseball? If you're not, then you certainly should be. Sleeper is a fantasy sports plus real money gaming app focused on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper has become the fastest organically growing fantasy platform in the world. And if you want 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball, Sleeper is now offering up to a 100-time payout for up to an 8-pick contest. Choose as many as 8 players that you like. Pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Braves will try to bounce back against the Red Sox on Wednesday night at 7:10 p.m. Eastern after a frustrating loss on Tuesday. Hopefully no more rain delays there either. Hopefully that umpiring crew gets their act together. They were pretty terrible. But catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Thursday's podcast, we'll do our Through the League segment, look at some more trade news and rumors that's going on around the league. And then Friday, we'll have our mailbag podcast leading into the weekend series where the Braves will be facing the Brewers once again. Getting to our stat of the day of Wednesday, our stat for this Wednesday is 149 2-out runs. That's how many runs the Braves pitching staff has given up this year with 2 outs. I mentioned on Tuesday night, 6 of the 7 Red Sox runs were with 2 outs. And it seems like that's happened a lot lately. Or do we just notice it more when that happens? That's actually the 5th fewest runs allowed in all of baseball with 2 outs this year. So that would tell you the Braves are actually really good at not giving up runs with 2 outs. They've given up 233 hits with 2 outs, which is the 2nd fewest in all of baseball. 27 home runs is the fewest allowed in Major League Baseball. 107 walks is the 9th fewest. Those are the ones that really kill you as well. You get those 2-out walks. That's what happened with Charlie Morton in that 4th inning. I believe it was Tuesday night, had 2 outs, walked a batter. Things kind of unraveled from there. That's the one that just kind of really kills you. 320 strikeouts is the 5th most with 2 outs. You love that. You get the 2 outs. You go ahead and finish off the inning with a strikeout. The Braves actually do a really good job at that. So you love to see that from this Braves pitching staff. Their 1.24 whip with 2 outs is the 7th best in all of baseball. And their 222 average is the 5th best. So really, when you look at the numbers, even though it may not feel like it, the Braves are really good with runners with 2 outs. And, again, you wouldn't think that, especially after what you've seen here lately. You look at it individually. And you look at Jesse Chavez, a 0.44 whip with 2 outs, Strider 0.81. They've been some of the best. Charlie Morton has been one of the worst, and maybe that's why I noticed it more from last night. And it does seem like it happens a lot more when Charlie Morton's on the mound. He has a 1.64 whip with 2 outs this year. Not particularly good. Raisel Iglesias, Kirby Yates both have a whip over 1.5 as well with 2 outs. Small sample size, but Ben Heller's been pretty good. He's faced 22 batters with 2 outs and has yet to give up a run. Colin McHugh's actually been really good as well with 2 outs this year, just 2 earned runs and 59 total batters faced with a 1-2-1 whip and 13 strikeouts. AJ Minter has given up 16 earned runs with 2 outs this year, despite just a 1.28 whip and a K/9 of 12.83. A lot of that probably coming earlier in the year when he was going through the struggles that he had. Joe Jimenez has been really good. We got to talk more about how good he's actually been lately. Had a good performance on Tuesday night. He has a 1.03 whip and 13.5 K/9 with 2 outs. So he's actually been fantastic. Where I think maybe we're seeing some of the frustration with the Braves is with 2 strikes. And you look at OPS with 2 strikes this year, Braves have been really good on the hitting side of things, but on the pitching side of things, it just feels again like they haven't been as good as you would expect them to be. And maybe that's part of it, is that they just, would get to 2 outs, get to 2 strike situations. The Braves have given up a 158 batting average with 2 strikes this year, which is 5th best in baseball. So that's not it either. I think it's more so just from a fan's perspective. It feels like the Braves have given up a lot with 2 outs and 2 strikes, but it's probably just because we remember that a lot more. So the Braves have actually been really good in that department, which bodes well when it comes to the postseason, being able to end innings abruptly, get out of innings in those situations. With 2 strikes this year, the Braves have 900. They have 919 strikeouts in general, but they have a whip of 0.83 with 2 strikes this year, or in 2 strike counts. And that is second best in all of baseball behind the Tampa Bay Rays. So despite what you or I may think, the Braves pitching has actually been really good this year in 2 out, 2 strike situations. I think it's more so just a product of Charlie Morton and something that he really struggles with, putting hitters away, and something I've noticed a lot of as well. And I think this was an article I read on Battery Power talking about Charlie Morton and his struggles. It's really against left-handed hitters. I don't know what his out pitch is against left-handed hitters. He tries to get that curveball in under the hands of lefties. You saw him continually try to do it in that bat in the first inning against Rafael Devers, and Devers kept fouling him off. And then he tried to backdoor one, and he left it up enough that Devers got a hit on it. He tried to backdoor Tristan Casas with a 3-2 pitch with that curveball as well, and just missed outside for the walk. He just doesn't really have an out pitch against lefties, and I think that's been a big issue for Charlie Morton here over the past year or two. But overall, the Braves pitching staff has been probably better than you realize with 2 outs and 2 strikes when you actually look at the numbers. So that's a good thing. Hopefully that's a really good thing once it gets closer to postseason time and into the postseason. Hopefully it's a great thing for Spencer Strider on Wednesday night. We've seen recently with him too, he'll get to 2 strikes, and then he's been giving up some hits as well with 2 strikes. So hopefully that's something that he figures out on Wednesday against, again, a really good Red Sox lineup. We'll discuss more about that here next. So the Braves did end up adding Taylor Hearn to the active roster along with Yonny Chirinos and Pierce Johnson. Wasn't sure if they would option Hearn, but it makes sense for them to keep a lefty on the active roster probably until AJ Minter comes back. Then I would imagine that they, at that point, will send Hearn down to AAA since he has an option left and you can move him down without losing him. And then hopefully Dylan Lee threw a bullpen on Tuesday, so hopefully he'll have a rehab assignment here pretty soon. Probably won't take too many rehab outings for him to come back, although he has been out a little bit longer than AJ Minter. So I think Hearn's only on the roster till probably the weekend when I think we see AJ Minter return. But all 3 of those guys added to the active roster ahead of Tuesday's game. Didn't get a chance to see any of them in Tuesday's game. Speaking of Wednesday's game, game 2 of this 2-game set, Spencer Strider versus Brian Bello. Bello, young 24-year-old for the Red Sox. Been really good this year, but his last start, he gave up 6 earned runs in 4 innings against Oakland. That snapped a string of 7 straight starts where he went at least 6 innings. So he was on a really good run until that last one, and then he ran into those pesky Oakland Athletics. Braves know all about that. He's given up 6 home runs in 3 July starts after not giving up a single home run in 5 June starts. So I don't know if he's a young kid, maybe he's starting to tire a little bit. That sinker's not sinking as much for him, leaving it up a little bit. Hopefully that's the case here for the Braves after they didn't hit a home run on Tuesday. They're itching to get back out there and do some damage on a Wednesday. But Bello has a mid-90s sinker that gets a lot of ground balls, over a 50% ground ball rate, and he has a swing and miss changeup. So hopefully, again, he leaves that sinker up a little bit. Braves just saw a really good sinker ball pitcher in Adrian Hauser. That did not go particularly well, but hopefully that sets them up and prepares them for this start against Brian Bello. As for Strider, avoid that big inning. We've talked about it with him a lot. There are these starts this year where he is just absolutely dominating, racking up the strikeouts, and then it's, walk, home run, whatever it may be, a bloop, bad defensive play, and then next thing you know, he's given up a crooked number. That's just happened way too much for Spencer Strider this year. It is a really good Red Sox offense. You're going to have to be in the zone, be effective, get ahead. I want to see him work ahead with that slider a little bit more if hitters are cheating for that fastball, as I think a lot of hitters have done to him this year. Go to that slider and early in at bats a little bit more, get them thinking about that, and then bust them in with that fastball. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he needs to do to succeed. So I'm really looking forward to him getting back out there on a Wednesday, hopefully getting the Braves a win and hopefully getting them on a good run here after a couple of weeks here of bad baseball post All-Star break. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. The Braves again will play the Red Sox on Wednesday night at 7:10 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Ryan Bello versus Spencer Strider. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure you follow me at Shortstop Ball. Also, make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.